we're here now to celebrate some of local writers and to award the prize, isn't it exciting, for the winner from this short collection here, Writing Local, Thinking Global. Now, do excuse me, I explained earlier on when I was here, I've got a bit of man flu. So, yeah, thank you. So I am really suffering. Diane, you wouldn't understand, it's man flu. Okay, so, yeah, bear with me as I sweat. So before we kick off, okay, we're going to have some readings from some of the authors in this book. I want to say, first of all, a few thank yous. We want to obviously thank the university, we want to thank Hillingdon Council, we want to thank the Arts Council, and we want to thank Heathrow for all of the sponsorship and efforts they've put in here this evening and that made this event possible. I will thank individuals later on, perhaps at the end of the readings and so on and so forth, so we'll leave that till then. Someone I do want to thank, I want to thank Jacqueline Chester. Is she here? Okay, Jacqueline, who's been, I don't know if you saw her down here earlier on, she's doing lots of illustrations and so on and so forth, and did the illustrations for this collection, so thank you very much for that. And I did watch you doing it, actually. You're quite good, aren't you? Yeah, I was quite... and of course, we want to thank all of the authors, 35 local authors, who contributed to this collection. So if you're here, thank you. If you're not, thank you anyway.
Any authors who are published in the... Oh, right. Oh, yes. Oh, gosh. Oh, wow. Oh, fantastic.
All right. Well, okay. Thank you. Okay. But you've had your clap, so you put your hand down now. Okay. So let's crack on and hear some of the authors reading. And then we're going to hear 6 authors reading their stories or poems or whatever, and then we're going to have the presentation of the winner. So the first person up, and I'd ask them to come here and read for us, is Thomas Hull.
Okay, right, that's hello.
Do you want to sort that out? That's heightism, that's what that is. That's why I didn't go near it.
That's great, thank you. I also have a bit of man flu, so I'm only going to read the first 4 paragraphs of my story, but if you'd like to read more, then get a book. Hello.
Yeah, okay. Great.
This story is called Creaker. Here we go. Screams rattled down the underground tunnel, piercing my eardrum like gulls' cries. I thought of clapping a hand over that ear, like swatting a fly, slapping my own face. But I knew that the noise would only rattle my skull instead then, ringing around my teeth and face. I couldn't stop the train noises, have never been able to. The world shook and the train was coming, and everyone there was going to work, or to see his friend, or to some other pressing social engagement. And I was stood there with a blue woolen scarf, and my tinted heart sunglasses, and my patterned leggings, handbag clutched in one fist. And nobody at that platform knew that I was there to die. At least, that's not quite accurate, at least to think about dying. I'm told a lot of people spend time contemplating oblivion, a lot of artists, Poe, Van Gogh, all that crowd. When I say that I thought about dying, however, I mean that I go to places and think about ways I could die there, and then either I die or I don't. So far it seemed to be the latter. I'm so afraid of train tunnels because I'm so fascinated by them. That day was like many, where I stepped forward and peered around to look into the darkness, waiting for those lights to appear. Before the train comes, I think that the tunnel is something different, leads somewhere different. If I were to step down onto the tracks and just start walking before anyone could stop me, I would slip under that shadow and disappear into one of the holes of the earth. And when I came out on the other side, who knows how I would have changed. I don't want to do this, understand? I never want to do this. I just feel as though it is inevitable, the same with manholes and sewage pipes, that one day I will go in there. That's all, thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas, and thanks for all of those skinny lattes you served me in Costa. but you still charge me. Anyway, so our next reader, please welcome, put your hands together for Marjorie Burkhari.
Seb, I might need you to put this microphone down.
They obviously set it up for Graham.
Thank you. Is that catching my voice all right?
Yes.
So I'm Marjorie. I'm a retired nurse and midwife, and I'm in contact with some Syrian refugees. And the first Syrian refugee that came to me is based in southern Turkey, near the Syrian border. He calls himself Dante because he feels like he's been through Dante's hell. And when he narrates all that he's been through, I can say, yes, he has been through Dante's hell. And I wanted to know why he seemed quite fixed in that point and why he had not run to Izmir and done the Greek crossing that we've been seeing to come to Europe. And we've talked together, and he's sent me some work that we've adapted for this evening. The river, in fact, in this piece is the Euphrates River. It starts in Turkey and then winds its way through Syria. I sit by the river and watch the current flow, move towards my country. I know that you track your way to my motherland. I know that you flow close to my mother in our town. I feel as if I could send a message in a bottle to you, dear mother. This river is like an umbilical cord to my motherland and my beloved mother that gave me life, sustained my life, was my life, is my life. But what of this life now? What has this life of mine become? I feel lost without you both, my motherland and my mother. I am as adrift as this leaf that I see now floating on the river. I am in a foreign land, a land I never planned to be in now, in this moment of my life. But I had to flee for my life, chased, harassed, threatened with death, a fugitive in my motherland, and now this foreign land. This was the neighbour land that opened up the borders for us all. But my heart beats to the beat of my motherland. I find it difficult to sever the ties. I lay on the banks and reach down into the water. I take handfuls of water and fill the water with kisses and with my tears. Then release the water with my kisses. Each kiss like a petal being carried on the river. Each kiss for my mother to keep her safe and to know that I'm thinking of her and care for her. But in my love for my motherland, I remember the souls that fought for the freedom. This river is known to come from paradise. Now they return to paradise, their souls now free in the ultimate freedom. I send kisses of respect, kisses of thankfulness, kisses of pain that they had to die for what every man, woman, and child has the right to have. Freedom! Freedom to live their lives with hopes, dreams, and desires. My kisses to the river are joined with a chorus of kisses from the trees, the birds, and with the sun. Even in the darkness of nightfall, kisses are continued with the moonlight. All creation is from love. And with that love, there is a flurry of kisses to say, nothing is lost, only changed. Love is a universal law to win over man's darkness. It is like the river talks to me, weeps at the pain. The riverbanks are like arms that cradle the flow of my heart to my motherland. I see in my mind's eye the broken bridge of Deir ez-Zor and hear the screams that seem to come from the river as it echoes the pain it has seen, carried the blood of those that were murdered and martyred. My mind is flooded with this pain. Yes, my heart truly beats to the rhythm of my motherland. All my memories are there, can you see? The days of my childhood with my mother and my family, The days of play and learning and weaving future dreams. Dreams now lost and overcast with nightmare scenes. I used to swim in this river by my home, laugh, splash, dive, tease and play fight with my friends. Those were happy days, memories that glisten and sparkle like the sunshine on the gentle waves in the river now. I feel confused. My mind whirls like the whirlpool currents in the river. With this, the agitated carousel of thoughts, to run and go yet to another land of safety. No, stay, wait, no, move, start a new life. Let go, no, I cannot let go. My mind is with my mother and my father, trapped in dire azure. There may be a chance for them to come to me. I must wait and know that they are safe. Then, only then, can I let go of my motherland. A land ravaged, torn apart with hate and war, a sickening battleground of man's twisted mind. In this land that opens its borders to me, not all are welcoming. It is difficult for me, as some men will face me and ask, why did you not stay to fight? But I do fight, I answer, with keyboard and pen as I write about the regime. The activist groups gather information that will destroy the regime. This is the fight we do. We may not hold a man in our arms and wrestle and break his neck. We may not hold a gun and shoot or launch a rocket to their bunker. But our words are the revelation of the truth and the horror. This will be our battle won, as this evidences the horror and the crime against humanity. I can only hope that the battle will be won and justice will be done.
Thank you very much, Marjorie. So our next reader, please welcome Ali May. Graham.
Good evening. Yeah, please. I would enjoy that. My name is Ali May, and I did a master's in creative writing here 10 years ago. Bill used to have a lot fewer grey hair. So did I.
Yeah. All right, he hasn't won.
Good to be back to Brunel University, West London. The magic in her fingers. She bought barberries. She had enough saffron at home. A 20-kilo sack of smoked rice was still untouched in the kitchen cupboard. She was going to kill the fattest chicken by the fountain, let it bleed out, and skin it right there on the mustard mosaics. She was going to disintegrate the bird in four, 2 legs and 2 breasts, marinate it in her magic mix. Magic, he used to call it. It is just a few spices and butter, she'd protest. What's so magic about it? Your fingers. You've got magic fingers. You touch anything and it becomes the yummiest. Saffron, turmeric, cumin, that was it really. But he called it magic. Half a kilo of barberries. A bit excessive perhaps, but he liked his rice really sour. He would have a big slice of chilled watermelon afterwards for dessert, sometimes 2. They would sit on the floor, spread the cloth between them, set the food in the middle, punctuate the space with round balls of yogurt and cucumber salad. Iced water in a blue crystal jug would sit on his right side. He liked to pour it. He liked calling the cheap glass crystal. If it was a Friday lunch, they would eat late so they could listen to the 2 o'clock story reading on the radio. Did she have enough cumin? Cumin, was it? Enough? Any at all? What was that again? What did she have enough of? She checked the contents of the red plastic basket. Barberries. Why did she buy barberries? Didn't she want courgettes? What was she going to do with the damned barberries? She gave the plastic bag back to the man behind the till. I need aubergines, not damned barberries. I hate barberries. She almost screamed. We don't sell vegetables, but if you take a seat, I'll go fetch you some from next door, said the man. Damned barberries, she said, and headed out of the shop. Your money, shouted the man. You didn't take it back. Not again, he said under his breath, and ran after her with the crumpled notes. Who was she? Why was she wandering in the streets that she didn't recognize, with air so thick she felt she was choking? Why was she in that ugly dark black coat? Why wasn't she wearing her miniskirt that was the color of a spring sky? Why was she carrying that cheap plastic basket? What happened to her leather handbag? Had she forgotten to put on perfume? Why did the city look so different? Was she walking in a nightmare? She would give anything to wake from it. It was for him that she had changed her life. She wore a facade of piety for him, with a dash of revolutionary ideology. It was for him and him alone. Sit and eat on the floor? Keep chickens in the garden? Wear the chador? She would never have committed such incivility if it weren't for him. She didn't care much for her husband. As a responsible child, she knew she had to do it. The family business depended on the marriage. So did the reputation of her father. She looked at it as a project with an end date, and she soldiered on. She wanted to get pregnant as soon as possible so that none of her attention nor her mental space were given to the husband. Mazdak was born in the summer. Dry heat clutched at Tehran's throat. The hospital was not far from the mountains in the north. In the morning that he came out of Leila's womb, a breeze played with the willow's branches outside the window. Leila couldn't stand the scene. Shut the curtain, she screamed. Mazdak, in her embrace, began to cry before the nurse had the chance to comply. Leila had hated weeping willows ever since. It was a day to be celebrated, not eulogized. Stupid trees, she would say, every time she walked past one of the family. By the time the revolution happened and the Ayatollah took over, Mazdak had already bought his first razor, his legs already hairy, his voice coarse, his father removed from the picture for a few years. But the changes were not just in his appearance. Just a couple of years of the new regime, and Mazdak had already turned into an enthusiastic supporter of the Islamic Republic. Leila found it difficult to comprehend. That was not his son's upbringing. She knew she had no chance if she fought him. So she played the acceptance card, made changes to the way they lived, put the dining table in storage, and conceded to sitting on the floor. The gramophone was discarded, along with the wine glasses. Luxurious china sets were replaced with all that was cheap and cheerful. The house started to look like a bloody seminary, she thought. She fried the chicken with saffron and let it turn golden. She took a couple of spoonfuls of rice and mixed it with the barberries in a bowl. Sprinkled a few drops of brewed saffron over the concoction. She liked serving in individual plates instead of big trays. She made a hill of rice on Mazdak's plate and added a layer of berries on top. The chicken would accompany in a separate plate. Lunch is ready, Mazdak John. Nahar amade ast, she called out. He had been too quiet since coming home. It was halfway through lunch that he made his announcement. Leila felt the earth open its mouth and gobble her up. She could not hear anything. The room around her moved with such speed that she felt sick. She tried to get up, but life had left her muscles. Why hadn't she seen this coming? She pulled at her brain. After she felt better, she wanted to scream and shout, slap Mazdak in the face and forbid it, tell him she would never give him permission, that he was not allowed to take his life in his hands and take it to the front line, that she couldn't bear the thought of his body torn by a landmine or perforated by the careless shrapnels of a grenade, by bullets fired from a rickety Kalashnikov. She did not. She sat there on the floor, She sat there on the floor, numb, and stared at her child. The son that was her everything. She entered the store with her red plastic basket. The owner looked at her in despair. Have you got any barberries? The good ones, the really sour ones. I'd like half a kilo. The bag of barberries that he had weighed just half an hour ago was resting by the till. Why do you want so many berries, he asked. Barberries, he asked. It's for my son's lunch. He loves zereshkolo. There you go. He handed her the bag, knowing that the son's body was never found, that the last zereshkolo made by the woman was 30 years ago. Layla paid for the dried berries and left the shop. She had enough saffron and the bag of smoked rice was still untouched in the cupboard. She was going to make Mazdaki's favorite, magic meal. She still didn't know why he called it magic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ali. And so we are halfway through, so we now move on to our next writer, Eleanor Paul.
Next time you get everybody the same height. Is that possible?
Thank you. Is that good? Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's Eleanor, and I'm a primary school teacher. I live and work in Hillingdon. And my poem is a story about an unknown soldier, really. School days are supposed to be fun and the best times of your life, as we're told. And for some children, it's not quite, and this poem reflects that. War of words. Oh, how I hate the way you stand there, taunting and threatening me. Rows of soldiers, all uniform, standing at attention, ready to launch an attack. You've invaded my life, hunting me everywhere I go. Your daily torture pummels fear into my heart. You've turned my classroom into a battlefield. I've learned to hide. I use my combat fatigues well, but sometimes, just sometimes, I step on a mine and boom, the gas streams into my stinging eyes. Being on parade is such an embarrassment. What use is a soldier who can't fight? Where's the bravery in admitting defeat? Surely, he who doesn't dare can still win, can't he? I'm a prisoner of war, shackled and manacled, stifled and emaciated, serving penance until I can get out. Oh, but enough of the cries, the futility, the battle, the darkness. How I long to be released, to be able to live in peace. Someone free me from this life. Someone teach me how to read.
Thank you very much, Helena. And so we come to our fifth writer. Please put your hands together for Stephen Powdrill.
Hello. Nice to meet you all. So when I wrote my poem, I guess I was feeling a bit down about 2016, and I'm sure you all were as well. 2016 hasn't been a good year. It hasn't. David Bowie died. Brexit, obviously. My mum bought another cat. That was pretty bad. But also, there was a lot of cuts with the government, including cuts to disabled people. Basically, if you're getting benefits as a disabled person, a third of that was proposed to be cut if you're judged fit to work, to give an incentive to people to work. But if you're disabled, it's not going to make you better if you're working, I don't think. Anyway, that was a bad description. I'm just going to read what I wrote instead. Basically, Ian Duncan Smith, an MP, like he was dealing with this after a massive backlash over the proposed cuts. He sent a resignation letter to David Cameron, and this is sort of my reimagination of his letter. Here we go. So the title of the poem is not actually my own title. It's Ian Duncan Smith resigns from cabinet over disabled cuts by The Guardian. So I've got to give them credit as well. I didn't write all of this. It was partly The Guardian as well, so thank you for that. Dear Dave, it pains me to tell you that this is my resignation. I didn't mean to shock you. We've always been friends. Despite my change of heart, if you like my revelation, I shall mail you Christmas cards until the very end. Let me be frank. The nursing home has just proved too much. Yes, I enjoyed pushing Ted on his weather-beaten chair. I revelled in the challenge to tame old Sue's night crying. The autistics were a joy to soothe and brush her hair, although their short spans of attentions were desperately trying. Down syndrome kids, yes, they can be naughty and a pain, laughing 1 minute and then in hot tears. Oh, what to do? Dementia patients forgot a lot, never pulling the chain, but all those sweet fools need is a good talking to. I toiled on, like a disgruntled old mule nevertheless, scrubbing vomit off the carpet and lugging wet washing through that decrepit, sour little building. But I digress. The ribbons pushed me to the edge, not lavatorial flushing. The ribbons were what kept those poor patients alive, those happy mornings on which we doled them out. They gave them a sense of purpose and meaning, Dave, and wasn't that what we promised our jobs were about? 9 a.m. I'd pass them around a circle they tried to form, their shrunken O mouths drooping as if starving seals, and they would gleefully tie loops around their necks, gorm, and sedately squeal with their gold, red, orange, and teal. I admitted one night over poached salmon for two, the powerful feeling of salvation this job gave me, my belief that the ribbons were creating change, and you wiped hollandaise sauce off my chin tenderly. Hush, hush, dearest. You reassured that despite pressures from our budget box, the ribbons would be there for sure. They were not expensive, nothing to you and I. I remember chuckling at how cheap frivolity proved to be for the disabled and deranged in contrast to my garage, Ferrari wheels, and plasma screen on the roof. Alas, I should have known that frivolity was not possible for them within your plans to scrimp and save and scrunch banknotes away so that in troubled times they'd be accessible. That was the excuse you fed me. It's just the credit crunch. The board supported your later decision to take the ribbons away. Yet when the families discovered your financial plans, it was me they took their anger out on, Dave. It's the only way, I cringed to them. Your decision had made me a hated man within the public eye, and you know how I like to be liked. So that on that fateful Tuesday morning, golden ribbons glimmered in twisted, palsying claws, and a couple cripples began to fight over the prettiest blue bow that sparkled and shimmered, and I began to cry torrential tears, Dave. I wept. These pathetic humans had a grip on my heart, but I could not ignore your orders, so sadly snipped at the cords that coloured my own wretched Noah's Ark. My scissors gorged at the gold. They ripped at the red. I snatched the silver out of my patient's shaking hands. I made those cuts, Dave, till my fingers bled. I followed your instructions precisely according to plan. The aftermath was painful to watch. Some began to cry in the destruction over the torn colours that covered the floor. I stonily piled the ribbons into a bin liner and tried to remain calm, but inside I knew there was nothing more for me here in this god-awful job. Even with you by my side, the patients' families would be after my head. The ribbons were to be sold to buy essential food for our patients. That was what you surreptitiously pled for me to tell the families as you stroked my sweating neck under your twisted silk sheets, in which I discovered stone-hard lust and your explosive, scorching sex. But I checked the bank details, and no money has gone into that home. None. Therefore, I resign, and before you ask, our affair is over. I regret ever accepting the job, you deplorable twig. And after you promised you had love for no other. That's right, Mr. Cameron. I know all about that pig. Regretfully, Ian.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I didn't hear that at the Tory Party conference this year at all. All right, okay. Good, okay, so now we come to our final writer. Again, please put your hands together for Vivian Brown.
The NHS may have its faults, but we can't ever fault their wonderful nurses. And this poem is called Lovesick, and it's dedicated to them. I think I'm in love with the nurse in dark blue, with her glasses, her stockings and sensible shoes. From my own little cubicle in the end bay, and with not much to do, I could watch her all day. Consoling, cajoling, controlling the ward, so no patient gets hungry or angry or bored. She swishes the curtains and smooths out the sheets, always charming, alarming, determined, discreet. Infections, injections and incinerations, pus-covered plasters and last week's carnations, dealing and healing, doing what she does best, while bouncing an upside-down watch from her chest. Dishing and dosing out dinners and pills, marking up specimens, mopping up spills. She passes the bedpans and empties the wee, then pinches a chocolate to have with her tea. Taking sprains and strains and all manner of pains, in her stride, her pride in her calling remains. Yes, my thoughts may be private, but I have to confess, I'm so glad I opted to go NHS.
Thank you very much, Vivian. So, ladies and gentlemen, we come to that exciting moment where we are going to announce the winner. Before we do, can I just ask you one more time to put your hands together for our 6 writers who read this evening, but for all of the writers who contributed to this. Okay, so to announce the winner and pass on the prize, I'm really happy to welcome Councillor Michael Markham, who's the former chair of Hillingdon Arts Association. He's a member of the Brunel Arts Board, a great supporter of the arts both within the university but in the wider borough as well. Councillor Michael Markham.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. It's great to be here. I know that over 100 people submitted works for this particular competition. About half of them were from the university, students and staff, and the other half residents of Hillingdon. And I know just how much creativity there is in Hillingdon, whether it be creative writing, but whether it be drama, whether it be music, whether it be the visual arts. We are very fortunate to live in this highly creative borough. What always intrigues me about these sort of competitions is what one can do with just 26 letters. It seems to me that was the commonality of all of you. All the entrants had just 26 letters to work with. And yet you think just how much creativity has been generated through those 26 words, and I applaud each and every one of you. However, the time has come, like Bake Off. I have the envelope and the winner of the 2016. Thank you, Bill. And we had the pleasure of listening to her tonight is Vivian Brown. There you go, Vivian. There's nothing in it, but congratulations. And there's a selection.
Going to take our photo.
There's a selection. Hang on. Sorry, we're having paparazzi. Do you want to do it again? I wasn't looking.
Oh, I am now.
There you go. And there's a selection of books for you.
Thank you very much.
Well done. And well done, all of you. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Councillor Markham. Congratulations to you, Vivian. Congratulations to all of the writers. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for coming along this weekend. Unfortunately, I had to miss a lot of yesterday because of my man flu. But yeah, thank you again. But I made it for this afternoon, so it's great to see so many people here enjoying this creative upsurge in Hillingdon and in the university. So thank you ever so much for coming along. Come along again next year. Before we go, can I just ask you to thank all of our fantastic volunteers who have been doing so much over the weekend, sorting us out, telling us where to go, and doing it politely. Thank you very much for them. Thank you very much to Graham Shaw for moving the microphones up and down. So it's taken years for him to perfect that skill, but well done. Thank you, please. Will you put your hands together for Tom Ryan, who's been absolutely central to the whole festival. We would also like to say thank you to Andrew Ward in his absence, but the most thanks need to go to the person who's really been the fulcrum of this whole event, who has been answering all of the emails and putting it all together and listening to all the moans and groans. Sorry about that. Seb Jenner. So that's it for another year. I imagine there's still stuff happening out there.
No, that's the end.
All right, okay. So
big thank you to you, Bill, of course, with your man flu and home to bed. Have you had a good festival? Yes. Have you had a good festival? Yes. Have you had a good festival? Yes. Shall we do it again next year? Yes. We'd be really keen to have some feedback, any suggestions, authors, workshops, whatever you like. The email address is across all of the promotional materials, so please get in contact. Thank you all very much for coming, and thanks again, Bill.
Thank you,
And,
let's go home.
let's go home, that's it.
Thank you.